Good afternoon. We're so glad you're here with us for this seminar. One of the things we noticed as Leonard was interviewing all of the families for Real Life was that we as a team just couldn't get enough of it. We wanted to hear more and more. And so we have invited three of those families to share more of their stories. So we hope you'll listen along. We're calling this What's Your Story because we want you to have a chance to hear their stories, and we also want you to have a chance to think about yours. So at the end of the third one, we'll come back together and talk about what are some ways to start to put yours together.
What was it like for you just coping with, man, once being this really active and vibrant person to now having this type of injury, which really has you so stationary and not being able to do the things that you once loved to do. How have you dealt with that?
Um, some ways I feel like I've dealt with it in positive ways. Other ways have
Mm-hmm.
been not so positive.
Mm-hmm.
It's really easy to get depressed when your whole life that you knew, like anytime that I would get stressed, I would go for a run or kick a soccer
Mm-hmm.
ball or get on my bike. And that was a great stress reliever. And I can't do any of the things I used to do to relieve my stress. And so it was a
Mm-hmm.
it's very difficult trying to find something to do to help kind of alleviate some of the stress and just let it go. And at
Mm-hmm.
times I would not deal with it healthy ways, and I would get angry at the aides or get angry at my parents, and you
Mm-hmm.
know, I would take it out on them by like yelling or getting mad at them for not doing helping me in a way that I wanted to be helped. And so um, I have since
Mm-hmm.
figured out that some ways for me, who has to now live a stationary life, to relieve stress is through art. um, I and you could ask my whole family would tell you this. Before I got injured, I could not draw a stick figure to save my life. Not at all. Right hand stick figure, no. It was a line, and maybe the circle was a circle, maybe it was an oval. Who knew? I
For
don't know.
sure.
And since having to like fill out all my doctor's forms, and there are a lot of them, with my left hand, I had to teach myself how to use it because there were so many forms I had to fill out. I was like, well, they have to be legible, so I have to write. So um, I
Mm-hmm.
started by writing forms. And then I was like, well, okay, I'm bored because all I can do is sit here. So I got out coloring books and I
Mm-hmm.
used my hand. And when I first started, it looked like I was in kindergarten drawing outside of the lines. and I gradually worked myself up to where, like, these paintings on the wall back here, I did all of those with my
I was going
non-dominant.
to ask you about this. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow.
did all of those. I did some more over on that wall.
Yeah.
So I made that lantern
Yeah.
up top out of chopsticks. I make those now. So
Yeah.
those kind of things
Wow. That's
are
amazing.
my new normal of if I get frustrated
For
or
sure.
angry, I'm like, give me a pencil or some paint, and I'll just lose myself in that world and be able to calm down and, you know,
Yeah.
so, but I still struggle. By no means am I perfect. I still have my bad days where I get frustrated can't, um, because I can't cut my own chicken that I want to eat for dinner. And it's like, come on, I should be able
Yeah.
to do this. I'm a 36-year-old woman who can cut her own food, but I can't. So, um,
Yeah.
so it's kind of a yo-yo, but I try. And I
For
listen to a
sure.
lot of music. That's one way to cope, to be like, hey, it's okay. I can do this. I call them Jesus jams. I turn on my favorite Christian music, rock out. I'm like, he
Yeah,
still loves
yeah,
me. He's got me. He's going to help me figure this
for
out.
sure,
So,
for sure. I love it. Okay. Well, and then this is one neat part of your family is your sister stepped up. Their creativity, communication skills, determination to help make it possible for you to finish your treatment, even when in the midst of this pandemic. So, how did your sister go about raising the funds needed for you to continue your treatment?
yeah, she is a godsend. I love my sister. I am so grateful she was able to help. It was a super stressful, scary time for me. They had cut my treatment off where I was up in Rhode Island, and I thought I was basically going to come back to Ohio and be stuck and go backwards and get worse again after all the hard work I'd put in doing treatment. And so she could see how stressed I was, and she was like, hey, I'm going to do this for you. She set up a GoFundMe page. She did all the research on how to get it started. She did all the writing of the information and asking me questions and doing all the troubleshooting. So she got the page up and running. She kept a bunch of logs so that I could know who donated and how much, so I could, try and thank them individually.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
she basically was like, I'm taking this off your plate. So that was amazing. She was able to raise a majority of the funds to try and help purchase the treatment machine that I needed. And I mean, we had to, get loans and different things for the rest of it. But I've since got the treatment machine, and it's actually working much better than it was when I was in Rhode Island, because now I can use it multiple
Wow.
times a day. And so I'm doing well. And if it were not for her, then I would just be getting worse again. So super blessed for her.
Yeah.
My system.
So you're saying that, so I'm guessing this is what, February, March, where they wouldn't let you go to get what you need in Rhode Island? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, workers' comp, it was around December when workers' comp was like, we're not paying for it ever again.
Oh, December. Okay.
Yeah, we're not paying for it ever again.
Okay.
We don't think you're getting any better, so we're not gonna let you keep doing it. And so they cut me off, and
Okay.
I came back and I was trying to find different type of treatments around here, but then that didn't look like it was going to be a good option. And so my sister was like, well, let's try and raise money so we can maybe purchase a machine for you, to use while you're here. And so that was good, because most of the time they don't sell, like you have to have a doctor to sponsor it. And so she helped me find a doctor to sponsor it and whatnot. So, which is huge.
That's huge. Yeah. We, my daughter, she's 2. She was born premature. She was born at like 25 weeks, and was in the hospital for 400 days. And so we were beneficiaries of someone really coming to our aid in a similar way. And I just remember just seeing people work so selflessly on our family's behalf. It was a really big deal. So I know it's a really big deal for you what your sister did so you can get the treatment you need. That's awesome.
Khalilah and I are both the oldest in our families, and we, our personalities are such where we could have been onlys, and so but Karis is not built. She was not built to be an only, right? I mean, and so when we think about like had she,
She said no.
So even though it was a thought from the beginning of our dating relationship, Karis, was definitely, wanting siblings and whatnot. I mean, so she would have struggled to be an only, and so I think that, that definitely was always, kind of a part of our thought process as well. So, yeah.
I love it. Do you think are you guys open to adopting more, or do you think that you guys are good and your family's complete, or are you undecided, or you still open to whatever the Lord might do?
Well, we started later than most of our friends. You know, I always tell people I was a professional groomsman. I think I stopped counting the number of weddings I was in at about 12, 12 weddings, and so I was one of the last ones, and the last one, you know, in my
Yeah.
family were friends, and so we feel like had we started a little sooner, we would be more open to, you know. But yeah, we feel like, you know, we
Yeah.
gotta they're gonna keep us young, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, so Karen, of course, would have other
I get it.
plans for us as a family. She would love to have more siblings.
Especially twins.
You know, I would love to have a son. I come from a family of all girls, but you know, I just don't think unless we hear from the Lord very specifically, we're done.
Uh-huh. I get it. I get it. Well, man, it sounds like the process. I've heard, you know, a few adoption stories, and it seems like, you know, things happen relatively quickly for you guys, and it seems as though the process was relatively smooth. So I'm sure that worked out well for you guys. So I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a blessing, definitely. And I think, you know, like the social worker, she pulled us to the side at the very initial information meeting, right? And she told us, she said, hey, once all the paperwork is done and you guys are approved, be prepared because it's going to be a short wait for you. She just sensed that. She was like, we don't get a lot of African American families, but yet we get a lot of African American families who are making a plan, who are making an adoption plan, who want to place their child with an African American family. And so I just think that it's a bit heartbreaking that more families don't consider it or are open to it. And so we think that that's a part of the reason.
Right. Recently, there's been on the forefront in our country. There's been, you know, just things been highlighted as relates to discrimination and its prevalence in our country. So I want to give you guys an opportunity to share about how you guys have been impacted by the recent events in our country, and how things have just resonated with you, and what's going on with you related to what's been going on.
Yeah, it's been difficult. You know, there's definitely been some intentional shielding, you know, with what we've shared. Because the pandemic in and of itself is already a big challenge. Karis is extremely extroverted, and so she's still, struggling to adjust to the homeschooling, and missing her friends and whatnot, being able to go a lot of places, and so just being mindful of her capacity, to absorb, and what she could absorb, because she's our child, and so we know, how she would be responding if she could, and so yeah, so it's definitely an intentional shielding there. Just with us, just finding time to connect with our circle. We feel privileged to have multiple friend groups that invite us for prayer, multiple times a week, to be able to lament and to create space for that, and even lean into some of the difficult work with our white brothers. With me being on Young Life staff, we as a region have, been reading through some difficult things, having conversations, and all of this has been a catalyst. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to walk alongside, because I can't allow myself to become embittered based on where people are in their own journey. But if I can, be an encouragement and a voice to be a catalyst, I be prepared to do that. So even though it can be exasperating. So
one thing about Detroiters is that Detroiters come together during stressful times and are really there for one another, and so the community has responded with food distribution, diaper, water distribution, and we've seen our local officials respond as well. And so although Detroit has suffered water shutoffs for the past several years, our governor mandated that all water be turned back on in the city of Detroit and throughout the state. So that was a policy win that organizations have been advocating for probably the past 5 to 7 years.
You mentioned COVID-19 as you were sharing, and so at one point, I don't know where you guys are right now, but at one point, Detroit, Michigan was, I guess, considered kind of a hotspot for the virus. Can you give a little insight into what that's been like for you guys, and for people like me, Kansas City. I mean, we've dealt with it, right? But we haven't been considered a hotspot by any means. Give us some insight on what that's been like for you guys, in addition to what you've already shared about, being isolated and things like that.
Well, I mean, one of the things that's kind of fascinating to me as, like a nerd of sorts is my brain, goes in a lot of different directions, but I think that we're going to have a lot of writing and research that comes out of this, right? A global pandemic has just revealed so many things that for people who were either in denial or didn't know that people of color have known in regards to health disparities and, food deserts and uninsured and underinsured.
Mm-hmm.
Essential workers and the nature of their work and how they get to work. That includes public transportation. That includes, serving the public, interacting with the public. And so Detroit is Chocolate City, right? Even though DC calls itself Chocolate City, we have 80+% of African Americans. That's the demographic. So when you look at, what that data says about, I think one of the statistics I saw was 47% of children live in poverty in Detroit, right? And so that's what you had before COVID-19. Okay, so COVID-19 hits, and again, people who can't social distance, people who have had water shutoffs, right? And so if hand washing is essential, but I don't have running water at home. And so that is a reality of what's happening in Detroit and other urban centers where those disparities existed and, have been in a lot of ways politicized, right? And so so those are what you want to add to that, baby.
Yeah, and I think people may not understand that Detroit is it's really a national hub, even though we're in the Midwest. So we're a hub for Delta, but because we are also headquarters for General Motors as well as Ford and then Chrysler, and an international border, you have people from all over the world coming into Detroit and leaving Detroit every day. And so, there's still a blessing. Normally in January of every year, we have the North American Auto Show where we receive visitors from all over the world. And this was the first year that they decided to move the auto show to the summer. And so public health officials are just so ecstatic and just thankful that happened, because we would have been hit even harder. So I think Corona and the COVID-19 pandemic just hit Detroit really hard. We started to see our first diagnosed cases in like the middle of March. We started to shelter in place, I think the second week in March, and to start make changes. I have a pre-existing health condition, which makes me a part of the vulnerable population. So I started to change my calendar, and we started sheltering in place as soon as we knew what was happening. I've lost a good friend and colleague who was not even 45 years old to the virus. Shannon has lost, extended family members. We have, families who are members who are essential workers working in nursing homes and hospitals. And so I think early—
My cousin on a ventilator as we speak.
Yeah, so it's something that has definitely changed our perspective. It changed how we operated. We were stocking up on groceries and had the privilege to be able to do so, to buy the masks that we needed. Hand sanitizer. It was amazing that first time when the governor called for us to shelter in place. And I went to the grocery store, things were out. There was no toilet paper, there was no water, there was no hand sanitizer. And so we, fortunately, because of all of the Young Life work, Shannon had hand sanitizers by like a half gallon.
We have had conversations with CARES, and even in our time of prayer, been thankful to the Lord just for the privilege to shelter in place and have the things that we need, and even, you know, space to kind of get away from each other as we need to in our house, right? You know, because, you know, one of the things Karis, you know, has said, she's like, I love y'all, but I need to see three, I need to see some different faces besides these three faces, right? You know, and so creative, and so crafting has been a big part of the way that we've coped. You know, we have learned lots about each other. We have, you know, one of the things Khalilah said, she was saying, it's incumbent upon us individually to make sure that we find our joy each day. And so what that might look like, it might be like, babe, I just need to go watch an action flick in the basement. You know, I mean, like, or she might be like, you know, I'm about to be out in the garden for 2 hours. You tend to the girls, you know. I mean, and so, or Karis might, you know, want to go ride her bike, you know, and so we try to have conversations and check-ins. You know, we learn to discern when we're fraying at the edges a bit, you know, and where we each need some additional space. And so it's been an issue of calendar planning, because at any given time, if we're not careful, Khalilah might be on a Zoom call, I might be on a Zoom call, Karis might be doing her online school, and then we have a soon-to-be 2-year-old walking around, and the three of us are on a tablet, right? With the 2-year-old, like, hey, I'm here, and she's pouring rice on the floor. I mean, so you may need to have a day where she gets to pour rice on the floor.
Yeah. Was it a heavy burden lifted when you realized that you don't have to fix yourself? Matter of fact, that you can't fix yourself. Was that freeing for you? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, I still dealing with that, okay, because that's part of my personality, you know. When I say still deal with that, is my tendency is that I'm gonna always try to figure out how to get better, you know, which I don't know if that's good or not. But what is different right now on the Lucho days right now here is that I know that everything's gonna happen by the hand of Jesus Christ, and yes, it's so much freedom, okay, in that. That's why I try to have. I mean, I'm not perfect, but I have habit, and I try to have 3 different moments during the day. One happened at 5:30, the other happened at 2 p.m., and the other happened around 9 p.m. And I try to review myself, how I'm doing, what are those things that are grabbing me away from God, and what are those things that are putting me close to God, and then how I'm letting Jesus Christ to help me in that process. And I find so much freedom in that, you know.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, there's so much in those disciplines, prayer of examine, the daily offices, all those things have definitely enriched my life as well. Well, listen, we are living in the midst of a pandemic. Would love you to hear about how things have been different for you since all this has kind of hit us in February and March. What's been different about your life since the pandemic hit?
Well, everything's been different because first, I have a missionary heart, and because I'm a number 7, so I get sick if I'm in an office for more than 2 hours. Okay, so just imagine with the COVID-19, I find myself trapped in my office, in my house, 24 hours every day. So, I mean, just imagine, I was like, oh my gosh, there's no way they're gonna survive one more day. So yes, it's been really hard for me. And I'm honest with you, I'm been reviewing my days every day, because some days I feel like I'm doing better, and other days I feel like I'm not doing like really that good, because I feel like I spend too much time in the same place. And that's something that is definitely is not helpful for me in my personality, okay? Also, you know, having my family in our house, you know, because I mean, in school, everything happened in the same roof, you know, without having chance to transition. I feel like that's something that is been tiring, really tiring. In the beginning was kind of exciting, but then I immediately get to a point like, wow, I don't even know if I'm doing good, you know. I don't even know if I'm doing this in the way that we're supposed to do. Uh, thing that what's been good about the COVID-19 is the I've been learning more how enjoy more my house, you know. Uh, for example, I walk my dog now 2 times per day because it's been part of my routine. And for me to be healthy, I need to be outside at least
Mm-hmm.
a couple of times, you know. And I'm being enjoying that because uh, it's been so awesome for me to slow down and see how blessed I am, how beautiful everything is outside, you know.
Exactly.
Even if maybe that's nothing different, you know, for other people. But it's been good for
Mm-hmm.
me to slow down and kind of understand, like, wow, I mean, this is a really good place to walk, you know, and I
Yep.
got this so close to my house, you know. Something that's been good also for me is the definitely God is being sending me a strong message through the whole COVID-19 about how I need to do my life. And I'm not saying they're already uh, I'm that kind of guy, but what I can tell you from this COVID-19 process in my life is I feel like sometimes we do too much and God is not asking us
Exactly.
to
Yes.
be running in that speed and be doing all that. So now my commitment is how I can now make my life different from my job to my life, Lucho life with my family, understanding that really God is knowing that business, you know, about you have to always be doing, running, getting
Mm-hmm.
exhausted, you know. He's knowing that business, you know, he's more in the business about be present with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that, you can do the other part of the job. So
Mm-hmm.
really what I would love to see in the next months ahead from me through this experience is like how I can change my schedules, you know, in a way that I'm gonna be efficient, you know, with my job, with my family, with myself, but I don't have to spend more than 60 hours, for example, you know, working, you
Mm-hmm.
know, doing something in a week when I'm nobody's savior, you know.
Yep.
I can reflect the savior to somebody with whatever happened in my life, but I'm nobody's savior. So I don't know if that's
Yep.
a good answer or not, you know.
No, it is good. It is good. So you mentioned you when it comes to you feeling trapped, you talked about you getting out, walking your dog twice a day. Um, was there any other ways that you found yourself coping or dealing with, I guess, the trapped feeling that you felt?
Well, I don't know if this is related to that question, but I can tell you, for example, the Zoom meetings, you know, uh, in the beginning, I was so excited about have this technology, okay?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But now what I hate more about the Zooms is now I have more meetings than ever. Because in my normal life, you know, if I have to have a meeting in one area in my city, I have to drive there. So at least I have 30 minutes or 45 minutes driving and
Yep.
then 30 or 45 minutes driving back. So I have
Mm-hmm.
more time to decompress
Mm-hmm.
or to whatever. But now
Mm-hmm.
with the Zoom meetings, we don't have that. So you can have
Yeah.
really back-to-back meetings, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that's something that is good, you know.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that is taking the best part of me and my time away.
Yeah.
Uh,
In the midst of it all, right? Has there been ways that you've seen the Lord show up, or have you seen God moving during this time with your family, with others in your work with Young Life? How have you seen God in the midst?
well, yes, I mean, definitely every day because I already shared with you that I got the job, regional director job, with
Mm-hmm.
one of the most biggest region in Young Life, and then COVID-19 immediately. Just imagine lead a region like this one through a crisis. You know, they
Mm-hmm.
no nobody got a training for this. Now we will make the book. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
So the first thing that I faced as a regional director is we had a fundraiser. This is the most important fundraiser in Houston. There is a gala that we have, and with that gala, we raise a big part of the money that we use for the multi-ethnic ministry in Houston including campership money. Okay, and my first decision that I had to face as a regional director is like, it's no way that we're gonna do the gala. I mean, we have COVID-19. People is not allowed to be outside.
Yeah.
So just imagine me canceling this gala. Okay, I think it's the first time in the history of Young Life in Houston that we canceled the gala. Okay, and then pray and ask God, so what we're gonna do in order to have the money, because ministry is happening, and at the end of COVID-19, it's gonna be Young Life happening in Houston. So we pray as a team, and we came with a new idea. We said, well, we're gonna do a call at all. Okay, we're gonna try to call every donor that's been in the gala for the last 4 or 5 years, and we're gonna try to raise the money that we need for the region, for the multi-ethnic ministry. But just imagine, Leonard, you leading a fundraiser in one of the most difficult moments in history. Okay, when people is losing jobs, companies are getting closed, and you have to make a phone call and ask for money, even when it's for the best cause ever, which is Jesus Christ.
Right.
I don't think anybody don't even have a training for that. And we did it. We pray a lot. We also, as a team, say, well, maybe we when we call our donors, we have to ask first, like, how you guys doing? And depending on the answer, maybe we're not even gonna ask for money. We're only gonna pray for the donors, wherever it's happening. And we did it, and it's amazing how God, He's always in the business to surprise us. Because I can say that we got the money, and not even we got the money that we always got from the gala, but we have more money.
Wow.
Amazing. I mean,
Wow.
amazing, unbelievable. Bro, I got donors that they say to me, doesn't matter what happened, doesn't matter how long it's gonna be the COVID-19. I'm committed that I will still giving money to you guys, because now we need Christ more than ever.
Now we need Christ more than ever. I love that Lucho wraps up his interview that way. And I love what he and Leonard were talking about before, about the ways that God surprises us and the ways that they have seen God in the midst of all of this. We want to guide you through some of the same questions that Leonard has been asking. So we'd love for you to pull out your handout that goes with this seminar. I'm going to share the questions. So if you don't have the handout, or if you get it later, that's fine. But it might be easier to go along with it. So some of the things we'd love you to look at would be, what does life look like right now that maybe was different from before? How is your life different from how it was before the pandemic started? What do you most miss? What have you learned that you might want to take with you after it's over, like Lucho was sharing? After that, we want you to move on and spend some time thinking about what it has been like in the U.S. right now, to have a lot of the awareness about some of the different racial disparities and racism brought to the forefront. And even those of our friends joining us today from outside of the U.S. We know you've been watching that, some of you. We've heard from you that you find it fascinating from your perspective and from the angle of your country. And we know that there is discrimination and racism that happens in all forms all around the world. So it's not a problem unique to the U.S., even though we in the U.S. are struggling a lot with it right now. So as you think through that, maybe give some thought to what is the Lord teaching you through all of that? Where has been your growth edge in that? What's been hard? Where are you finding ways to help others? And are you finding any ways to connect with those who might be different from you? After that, we want you to kind of peel back the layers a little bit and think about what in general makes your family unique. What are some trials your family has faced that others might not have? And if Leonard were to ask you about those trials, how would you describe that journey? One thing that we want to offer to you is that if you want to videotape your story, kind of like Leonard did with these families, you can just take a video of it. You can do it on Zoom, or you can do it on a phone, or whatever you have available to you, and you're welcome to send that in to our email address for the weekend, and you can send it to me or to one of the head leaders, Leonard or Chastity, and we would be happy to watch it and to learn more about you and to learn your story. We really believe every person's story matters and that we can all learn from hearing from each other. So, final thing, excuse me, that I want us to think about, and that is, are there any ways that you want to use this weekend as a turning point? Maybe as a place to put a stake in the ground about what's important to you. How will you keep yourself and your family anchored in what you want to prioritize? So often we might identify like this aha moment. Yes, I want that. I love what Shannon said, or I love what Lindsay said. And so we kind of recognize I want to move forward with that piece, and apply that to my own life, apply that to my own family. But what can be hard is then making that happen, turning that into action. So think about what your ways are that you are going to turn that into action, and keep it in front of you. Maybe it's writing yourself a letter that you send to yourself in a month. Maybe it's putting it on the fridge or somewhere that you're not going to miss it, to remind yourself of a priority that you want to focus on. So as you think about things today, we really encourage you to just give that some thought and go from there. We so appreciated you joining us and being a part of What's Your Story. Thanks again. Bye-bye.